stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll call this Tuesday, September 26, 2023 meeting to order. Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Make a motion to approve the consent agenda A through L. Second. Motion is second. Before we vote on this, I would like if Candace could come and talk a little bit about K before. It could have been on staff reports or the consent, but we want to make sure that we have a conversation before we actually vote on that item or these items.
So that item is task order C. That is an agreement with Armstrong Consultants to do all of the front end design work and bid process to do a seal coat on the apron. So we have some ARPA money available. There was 201,000 allotted for the airport. And we had our initial project, which was the gate, which leaves us 154,000 in ARPA money that needs to be contracted before the end of the year. And the apron is in desperate need of a seal coat. So we're working with Armstrong to put together that plan and go through the bid process. So that's what this agreement is for.
So the cost to Armstrong to doing all of that and engineering, expecting all that is $41,270.
Correct.
Max. Could be a
Max,
little
yes.
bit less, yeah.
Yep. And
And
then they'll go out to bid and, we'll get those bids back, ASAP as soon as we get this signed, and they'll proceed with the whole bid process. And then once we get the prices back, then we can take a look and approve and move forward and get something under contract before the end of the year.
So so they would be around 114,000 is what the apron project would on the bids that go out. You got 40,000 out of the 150 some thousand.
Yep.
Roughly, we're looking
Right.
close. So any questions on that? Just wanted clarification before we voted on that. The city will be going before the city. We're not asking the city for any money. This is
Correct.
ARPA money, but
Yep.
we do need their approval before we move forward, just
Yep.
because we're partners on the airport. So.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other further conversations for the consent agenda? Anybody want to say? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. All right, we do have a public hearing at 9 o'clock. We got plenty of time. And so, Jeff, do you want to go first? We'll skip this. Oh yeah, sorry. Hold on. Sit down. Public comments. Anybody would like to have a conversation today about anything that I just want to see if how fast Jeff could move. Yeah, that's what I said. Any conversation you would like to present to the commissioners, anything going on in the county, here's your moment. Please state your name.
Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
We recently shared some information with you guys about a judicial watch lawsuit that has taken place in Colorado. And it has a lot to do with the things that we've been bringing you about voter fraud and the ways that electronics can be manipulated in our elections. So Judicial Watch sued the state of Colorado in 2020 because of apparent inflated voter rolls. Colorado's Secretary of State recently entered into a settlement agreement with Judicial Watch on this lawsuit. They promised to do a certain amount of registration roll cleanup over the next 3 years. So you might find it interesting that Moffat County is also mentioned specifically in this lawsuit. Inflated registration rolls together with early and mail-in voting are important in the implementation of election fraud because the excess registrations serve as a ready pool of available votes to achieve desired outcomes in an election. So we did send you the link to that Judicial Watch. And the summary of that, just for public knowledge, is that Moffat County is mentioned on page 7, which involves excessive registration rates, which means that there are more people registered than people who are old enough to be registered in our county. In paragraph 7, it mentions Moffat County. The September 2020 study showed that 9 Colorado counties, including Moffat County, had registration rates exceeding 100% during every single month of that 60-month period. The 10th county, Moffat had registration rates exceeding 100% except for one. So all but 1 month. These electronic voter rolls can be changed with a click of a switch. They can load people in, load people out every day of the year if they want to. The answer to that is to have our registrations local and not let the state have control of those. That would be the answer to that problem. The second mention of Moffat County in this lawsuit is on page 9, and it's a complaint about insufficient address confirmations sent during a certain period. The lawsuit language is as follows. In response to question A8A of the EAC's most recent survey, 25 Colorado counties reported sending address confirmation notices to less than 2% of their registrants during that period. Because the reporting period was 2 years, that means that these counties sent address confirmation notices on average to less than 1% of their registrants. Moffat County is named as one of those counties. Thank you.
You can continue if you have.
Okay.
Final.
Well, then, it just says that every state is being manipulated almost constantly. And this is not the wordage in the lawsuit, but things can be easily fixed and unfixed, like I already specified. So anyway, I hope you guys have had time to look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else for public comment?
Carol Haskins, I just want to present the fact that Proposition HH is going to be on the ballot in November. And it is being portrayed as a property tax cut and as an education funding bill. And that's not really what it's going to be. It's going to take away our TABOR rights. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? Going once, going twice. Okay. We will close public comment. Is there any general discussion from the commissioners? Hearing none. Because we have somebody on Zoom and we have a public hearing, we're going to skip to item number 3 and we'll come back to number 1. You want to come, Jeff? I'll let you introduce Mr. Sweeney.
Okay. Sounds good. Good morning, commissioners. In front of you is a letter of support that we'll be asking for your support to do a feasibility study where we co-sign a grant with the city of Craig for small modular nuclear reactor feasibility studies at the Craig station. And so that's the action item in front of you. And with that, I'll introduce Tom Sweeney. He's the Senior Vice President of RWE. You guys know him. You've had workshops with him and meetings with him before. So with that, Tom, would you like to take over the discussion?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff, and good morning, commissioners. Thank you for allowing this topic to get onto your agenda. Maybe I should just say at a high level, what the study is about. I think you all probably had a chance to read the documentation and what we're doing as next steps. So the studies are really about identifying whether this particular location, the Craig Power Station, is feasible for a small modular reactor. That feasibility focuses on a few things, but it's really geared towards, is the site itself feasible? Are there portions of existing infrastructure? So think about the substation and transmission circuits, potentially the turbines, or the cooling facilities that they have. Are they feasible to be reused in either in whole or in part? And at the same time, we're going to be modifying the request for the study. We've already started the conversations with Dr. Hansen at Idaho National Labs and some of the other resources there to make the feasibility study a little tighter in terms of what it's going to produce as output. That output will all be available to you all, the city of Craig, call it the public, so to speak, to understand if this is a location that's feasible for this type of implementation. We will also include, in small part, a preliminary assessment about potentially producing hydrogen and or ammonia as a byproduct from an SMR installation. So that's a part of what will be included in the study that wasn't originally there. And lastly, the expectation is that the adjustments to the study itself will be completed in early October. That would be submitted to the Gateway for Advanced Innovation in Nuclear Power, GAIN, which is part of the DOE department. And we would hear by early December whether they had granted the request. The request is for $500,000 of study resources from DOE, and then that is supplemented by $100,000 of in-kind development resource from RWE, from our company. And we would expect that the study itself would take approximately a year. It might be able to go a little faster than that, but that's about the time frame that would be required. And let me stop there because there may be some questions.
Any questions from the commissioners? Jeff, anything to add or no? I think we're, I can't speak for the other commissioners, but support these studies. That's one of our big plans, is to repurpose the power plant and Trapper Mine. That's on our top 3 priorities. How do we keep jobs in Moffett County? How do we keep our tax base? And, unfortunately, we have to spend a bunch of money to do a feasibility study to even get it going, but that's where we live in. So
I would point out that RWE is actually taking care of the technical side of this grant.
yeah.
And so it would be the city and county jointly sponsored as local governments.
Mm-hmm. For sure, and we appreciate that. Anything else, Tom?
Not from my side. I would just tell you that, as you know already, this is a long process to go through an evaluation and potentially end up with a small modular nuclear reactor. So this is the first step, and honestly, I think this and some other things we can do with some other Department of Energy departments can help assemble a pretty good package for you all to be able to start to assess, is this something that is feasible or not. So there's some follow-on work to be done with some other things, but we're happy to help. We're enthusiastic about creating knowledge so you can understand if it's an option.
Thank you. What is the
You're
board's pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the letter of support for the GAIN application funding for small modular reactor feasibility study.
Motion in a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thanks, Jeff, for presenting that.
You bet. Thank
We'll-
you.
We'll now jump back to number one, Board of County Commissioners to appoint Marshall Gray to open seat on local marketing district board and to appoint Kim Gressett to government alternate seat on the land use board. We have their letters. You want to take the first one or?
Do you
Talk
wanna
about it?
In two?
Yeah, probably.
I know we always seem to have an empty seat on that board and I think it's good when we can get people who will participate and actively involved in their communities. So,
And I think it's important to put someone from Dinosaur on this local marketing board, you know, and so glad they have somebody willing and to step up.
you want to do this in two separate?
You probably, yeah, just two different boards.
So, Mr. Chair, I would move to appoint Marshall Gray to the open seat on the local marketing district board to fulfill the seat that she's replacing.
Okay.
I don't remember when that seat expired. 2024, okay.
Motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, then to the government alternate seat for the land use board. You think, Ellen,
I can take
you're
that
on
one
that
as well.
board?
We can take that one as well.
You're liaison?
So Kim came and met with our land use board and obviously she'll be taking Bruce Silito's position at the BLM. And so we would like to see her be active on the land use board as he was. And so I would move to appoint Kim Gressett to the government alternate seat on the land use board. I would assume that would also be to fill the term.
Yes. Yeah. The rest of this. And as a side comment, she was very eager to take that spot. And sometimes we have to twist our field manager's hands to participate, but she was very supportive.
She's hit the ground running and been really great to work with so far.
Okay, motion and second? Second. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Well, we still got a few minutes here before our public hearing, so we will move on to Office of Development Services, Roy Tipton on courthouse east boundary fence.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Good morning.
Scott.
Yeah, with me is Scott Milton, pastor of Craig Christian Church. We share the boundary to all of our east property from the courthouse with Craig Christian Church, and they have proposed to fence that boundary off, which benefits both of us. So our proposal is to fence 580 feet of that with a vinyl fence and another 460 feet with chain link. That would be from industrial up to the first turn. The quoted cost is $36,880, and I would recommend that we split that with be a good neighbor and split it with our neighbor. And the number for that would be $18,440. That'd be a not to exceed number. The lineal footage estimates are off of Google Earth, so we just took some guesses on concrete, and we'll look at actual costs when they come in.
And that would be just a reimbursement to the church.
Yes.
Is that chain link 6 foot?
Yes.
Yeah, razor wire over the top of that.
Yeah, we didn't want it to look that bad.
Yeah. I know Roy and I had talked, I mean, that, need to, if it's possible, to inset this a few feet into your, and you talked to Scott about this, I think, into the property, just because that vinyl fence, when you go to push snow, it's.
It got you.
It's
We,
going to
we're
do that.
aware of that and we had already, when I talked to Roy, that we would inset, we wouldn't be on the property line.
Right.
We just wanted to make sure that was going forward because at some point, a new Pharaoh will arise that does not know Joseph.
Mhm.
You and I will be gone and down the road, they'll think that the fence is on the property line. It's not. So as long as we
Yeah,
got
for
that
sure.
documented, we'll set back because we realize getting the snow out of there and that's not a problem. This,
Any questions? From the commissioners?
Who's gonna do the construction of the fence?
Jerry Cox. And Jerry would be with us today, but he drew a Unit 2 tag for the first time in 25 years. So he's out there still looking for the elusive elk. So
Oh, shame on him, poor elk.
Well, I think looking at these numbers, he did you, being in that profession, he did you some favors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the reimbursement to the Craig Christian Church not to exceed $18,440 for the boundary fence.
Second.
A motion and second. I think when, most places, when you, go to build a fence somewhere, that's what neighbors do. Right? They split the cost if they can, if possible, so. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
thank you, commissioners.
Been 8 minutes.
I don't know.
I think what we'll do is we'll take a recess for 7 minutes to our public hearing, and then we will end with, after the public hearing, with the line item number 5. I don't know if we can get that done in time, so. All right, we'll go to recess. Thank you. we will call this meeting back to order. And we are going to go in to a public hearing. I can find my deal. Let the record show today's posted public hearing regarding commissioner redistricting. This item is on today's agenda and was posted in the Moffett County website. Once the public hearing has been declared, I will ask the clerk and recorder, Stacy Morgan, and election coordinator, Sarah Calding, to present to the Board of County Commissioners the redistricting maps and associated information. Once the information has been presented, the commissioners may ask questions or make comments. I will then ask the audience if there is anyone who wants to testify either for or against. Any citizen of Moffett County may testify once the public hearing has been declared and all the information has been presented. For those who want to testify, you'll be asked to approach the commissioners, state your name for the record, and will be given 3 minutes to present your testimony either for or against. The timekeeper will notify the Board of County Commissioners and the speaker that 20 seconds remain before your time is up. No decision will be made during the public hearing. This is the opportunity for any of you to provide testimony in favor or opposition of the proposed request. The commissioners have the option of asking questions or answering questions related to the topic during the hearing process. Once all testimony has been heard, the public hearing will be declared closed and we will go back into regular session. I will refer back to the Board of County Commissioners for discussion and a decision on said proposal. All right, so we will declare this public hearing open and we'll ask Stacy. Is Sarah not here today?
No. Hi.
Hi.
So we're here today for the mandated redrawing of the commissioners' districts. We have presented a new plan that has balanced the districts and follows the statutory requirements. And it's been posted on the website since August 25th.
Maybe explain a little bit on what the percentages are, if you know them off the top of your head, of why we had to do this.
Well, they was currently at 12.77%. And they have to be no more than 5% deviation between the least and the most populous.
So Mel's district and my district had way more people than Donald's district did,
Yes.
even though his green district there is twice as big as ours almost.
Land.
And so we had to give him more population to even it out. So that's why you see down the main road there is what we added, right?
Yes.
Just for clarification, if you see that little green strip down, that's what we added for Donald to get him
Where the
enough
people are to get
population
people,
to,
yeah. Yeah.
Sheep and cows can't vote.
yeah, horses can't quote out there or vote out there. Yeah. All right. Any questions for?
No, I think that we brought it in about like 4%, within 4%.
Mhm.
Is about where we were at.
Browns Park ever has a revival, you're gonna go ahead and have to cut back a little bit. Yeah. Okay, anything else?
No.
All right, so we will. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now ask the audience, you could be seated, Stacy, if you want. Thank you. Ask the audience if there's anyone that wants to testify for or against this proposed map change to give Mr. Broom more voters. Mr. Broom. Hey, here's a new one, so I'm on the list. Anybody would like to testify either for or against said proposal? One more time. Okay. Hearing none, we will come out of public hearing and go into regular session. And what is the pleasure of the commissioners.
Chair. Approve resolution 2023-92. Board of County Commissioners of the County of Moffett, State of Colorado. Resolution establishing revised commissioner districts.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Stacy. Tell Sarah she owes you lunch.
I do think one thing to clarify, Aaron, if you would go to the map, the first map. Just because it was kind of confusing for us when we first did it, was the jagged line follows census blocks. And that's why we don't have straight lines anymore.
Oh, gotcha.
Just
Yeah,
in case anybody has a question about that later.
Yeah.
That was helpful to understand.
for sure. Good point.
Sorry. Thanks.
All right, so last but not least, Human Resource Department, Rachel Bauer, to present employment offers for two positions, Facility Maintenance Director and Director of Development Services. Before you start, I would like to start by, some, the facilities, portion has taken a long time. We had a lot of applicants that we had to go through and narrow them down, and the commissioners felt like it was best on both of these departments, that the commissioners did not just make the decision, but that we had other department heads involved in this process. Due to the fact that commissioners come and go and those department heads stay here and work through these with them for longevity. So we brought in some department heads to narrow down the applications. They didn't get to see names. They only got to see credentials, I guess is probably the right word, and then narrowed them down to a certain number. And then they did their interview, and then the commissioners did their interview, and kind of went through there. And so today we're kind of looking at what is the recommendations and those. So.
Perfect. So like Tony said, I'd like to go over hiring recommendations. Currently, we do have two department head positions for consideration. The first one would be Director of Development Services. Based on the recommendations received from the hiring committee, it is recommended to hire Kent Binder. Interviews were held for this position September 29th through the 30th. Our second department head position for consideration is the Facilities Maintenance Director. Based on the recommendations from the hiring committee, it is recommended hiring Barry Barnes.
Okay.
And those interviews were held September 20th and 21st. On that one.
Okay. All right. What is the pleasure of the board? No matter which one we start with. Yeah. No. Yeah, I think the motion to allow Rachel to start negotiations with them, with these individuals. Yeah. Then if they, obviously don't know if they're going to accept or they're not. I mean, we don't know that, but. We're looking at facilities. What was recommended is Facilities Maintenance Director of Barry Barnes and Director of Development Services Neil Binder. So what is our pleasure?
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion for the Human Resource Department Director, Rachel Bauer, to start negotiation with the Facility Maintenance Director, Barry Barnes.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Then next we have Director of Development Services.
Human Resources Department, Rachel Bauer. To start the negotiation for the Director of Development Service. Finder.
Second.
Motion in a second. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. That's the last thing on the agenda, but before we dismiss, would like to give honor where honors due, and this is probably more than likely going to be Roy's last commissioner meeting. Roy's been here way longer than any of us have been here. And I said this during the remarks during the presentation of what do you call Cornerstone. But you know, Roy, there's not many people that come into a position and leave their fingerprints in a community. And I think you can look over multiple areas in our community and see the fingerprints of Roy Tipton. And you know, this is a huge loss for our county, but you know, we think that and believe that it's a great gain for Roy and his family, new start and closer to his daughter and all those good things. So we hate to see you go, Roy, but he ain't leaving quite yet. He does have a contract with us that we agreed with last time, and that he would be able to contract with us a little bit because there's lots of projects that we haven't finished yet that we need to be finished. So we appreciate you, Roy. And yes.
Well, you done kept going. I thought you were gonna stop there for a minute, so we could get something.
Hey.
But I want to thank Roy for still giving us the opportunity and we can, you know, have his services for why he's gonna be away, but you'll be able to do that remotely, which really appreciate that. And just you say, I'm done, I'm out of here, I'm gone. So that just goes to show you that he still cares about this community and cares about the county.
For sure.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Especially the last 3 years, huh?
What Roy doesn't know is that any complaints we get, we're still giving Roy Roy's number out and maybe home address if we find it. So greatly appreciate you, Roy. Really do. You're a pleasure to work with. So, okay. All we have for business. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.